Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here. In this video, I'm at a petroglyph site here in southeastern Utah. And I'm here because I want to talk about polydactyly, which is when people have additional digits on their hands and feet. And it's a kind of an odd thing. It's very, very rare. But in the southwestern United States and northwestern Mexico, we find many petroglyph sites that depict feet. There's normal footprints, but there's also footprints that have 6 toes or 7 toes. And occasionally handprints that will have additional fingers. Now that's normally been dismissed, just like, well, that's nothing, that's just an artistic expression. Now, leaving a handprint or a footprint is a special thing because it's kind of like, think about, you have fingerprints, right? Your fingerprint is kind of your signature. Well, it's the same thing. Leaving a handprint or a footprint or a depiction of your handprint or footprint made by you is a way of saying, I was here. It's a way of self-expression. Humans are terrified of no longer existing. We're afraid of dying, and we're afraid of not being remembered. So we want to be remembered in some way, and we see that at sites all over the world. But again, there's a profusion and a huge increase in the numbers of additional digited footprints in the Southwest. And for years, it was just viewed as, again, kind of strange artistic expression. Like perhaps you think about a little kid drawing a hand. They might draw just a ton of fingers and not care about how many there are. You see it also with artistic expression. Handprints, you think about Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is always depicted with 3 fingers and a thumb. And it's kind of the Mickey Mouse hands of the area. Bigger, thicker hands are easier to express emotion, and you can do that. So you see that happen as well. And we know when we look at these depictions of humans in these, most of them are not very lifelike. They are figurative. There is some artistic expression and some artistic license with all forms of rock art. Now, some of these depictions on the site are pretty accurate. I mean, there's buffalo that are very easily recognized as buffalo. There's mule deer that are very recognizable. There's bighorn sheep. But the human figures are a bit different. So it's like when people look out into the world, we seem to see the rest of the world in a very realistic way, and we see ourselves in a much more stylistic way. And again, you see that with the depictions of humans here. They're very stylized compared to how the animals are depicted. Now, this site goes back 8,000 years and has had different peoples, the Archaic, the Basque Maker, the Utes, the Fremonts, the Navajo, all these different people, the ancestral Puebloans, all these people left their marks here, okay? But the footprint thing, what's the deal with that? Well, again, for years, we just kind of thought it was artistic expression, but it turns out among Puebloan communities and Chacoan communities here in the Southwest, the percentage of people who are born with 6 toes is much higher, like 4 or 5% of the population has it. That's very unusual and very noteworthy. It's something we gotta take note of. Now, in Chaco Canyon, where again, they had a huge sample of burials that were checked, and again, about 4% of the people there had 6 toes. Now, some of them only 1 foot had 6 toes, 5 toes, 6 toes. Now, what we find is there was adornment. So if you had 1 leg, 1 foot that had 6 toes, around that foot, there was jewelry. There was beautiful, like jasper and jade and a lot of turquoise jewelry and shells around that ankle, as if to either celebrate or honor or draw attention to the fact that the toe had 6 feet. So now it is generally kind of understood in the archaeological community and people who are also studying the biology of these ancient peoples and studying the DNA as well, that this population, the population of people in the southwestern United States, northwestern Mexico, had a much higher percentage of polydactylism, where you have additional toes. And again, instead of being like, oh, that's odd and strange, that it seemed to have great reverence, and we see again, in Chaco Canyon, New Mexico, we definitely see a connection between the elites, the higher up people, because that was a stratified society in Chaco. There was the haves and the have-nots, and the haves among them, that's where we see a higher number of people with 6 toes. So was that something that you wanted to pass on, or that maybe people who had that genetic trait would marry and they were considered sacred? We just know that whatever it was actually a real phenomenon. and it was considered sacred, special, unique, and praiseworthy. Maybe you're children of the gods, who knows? But we now know that these depictions having all these extra toes actually are reflecting a reality, not just an artistic expression. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to take you to another site where we're going to look at another example. It's about 100 miles away from where I'm at right now. We're going to take a look at another site that also has six-fingered toes. Or it's not six-fingered toes, six-toed feet. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Well, now we're fast forwarding here a bit. I'm about another 80 to 100 miles away from where I was before. This is a totally different panel, and this is yet another thoroughfare. This is another spot where people passed and were funneled through a specific area. And on the site, there are several pictures and depictions of footprints. And some of these are five-toed, and some of them are six-toed. One of them are side by side, a five-toed and a six-toed that look the same style, look like they were probably made by the same person at the same time. Now we know, again, in Chaco Canyon, New Mexico, there's a number of individuals that have been found with one foot with five toes and one foot with six toes. And again, the foot that had six toes around the ankle was adornments and special bracelets, as if to acknowledge or somehow give deference to that. And so all over the American Southwest and the Northwest of Mexico, we see these six-toed petroglyphs. So it seems very important. And again, it seems that the genetics and the human remains that have been left behind show that this is actually a real depiction of a very real phenomenon. So I just wanted to share that because I think it's important for people to know that. I've studied archaeology my whole life, and it wasn't until very recently that I came unto the understanding that this is a real phenomenon that was very common in the Southwest, not just on rock art, but in actual humans that have been found. So I think it's important that people are aware of that fact as we take a look at these figurative depictions out in the natural world. So I hope you enjoyed learning and seeing this and learning a little bit more about Polydactyly and that phenomenon in humanity. And if you haven't already, if you can hit subscribe to the channel, I very much appreciate it. And always remember that life is a gift. So never stop learning and never stop exploring. We'll see you next time.